Well, we have a bit more information and we can bring you some more detail and pictures too about that meeting between the federal government and the National Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers. And at that meeting, they had decided not to commence the strike action as planned by the association.
After extensively deliberating on the state of the nation's refineries, the above-stated parties agreed as follows. That is the federal government and the trade unions. 1. The federal government is not selling the nation's refineries. Based on the above understanding, the trade unions in the oil and gas sector shall not embark on any form of industrial action or actions over the subject matter.
I think one of the challenges you have is thank God the entire masses of Nigeria will know that oil workers are not troublemakers. So if government cannot keep to agreement, it means that government is not really serious. We believe that this is a commitment they've given. For the past 2 years, thank God at least we'll be able to get material for this one. But if it's done and we cannot perform, then government can be thinking otherwise. But if you're supposed to do something and you don't do it for almost 10, 14 years, then you cannot say government cannot run it. If they have challenges about fund, we can always look for fund. But I think what's important is we strongly believe government will do it. We believe that government cannot deny. But if they deny, Nigerians will know that we didn't look for trouble. This government that look for trouble.
Key thing, like you have rightly mentioned, the materials for the turnaround maintenance of the Port Harcourt refinery are on ground already, and that's why we're confident that in this first quarter, the Port Harcourt refinery turnaround maintenance will be concluded, and then we can be thinking of the next one.
Unveiling the new look of Guinness. Discover a colorful world of more.
All right, from there we move on to sports news. Here's Charles Aruka. Charles.
Oh, thanks, Joma. Welcome to sports news. The Commonwealth Games Queen's Baton Relay continues its journey in Nigeria today with the arrival of the delegation at the Government House in Lagos, led by Sherad Rao, honorary member of the Commonwealth Games Federation, Nigeria Olympic Committee President Sani Ndanusa. The baton was handed over to Governor Babatunde Fashola. The delegation also presented to the governor a symbol of Scotland's support for Nigeria to achieve success at the Games. He was also honored by the International Olympic Committee, represented by Sani Ndanusa, in recognition of his contribution to sports. After handing over the baton, Rao said he expects Nigerian athletes to excel.
A small piece of Scotland that we are going to leave here. We do expect Nigeria to come back with a lot of lots and lots of medals. Your Excellency, I come from Kenya, and we are of course also a sporting nation, as you know. But fortunately, the events that your team will take part in and win will be different from the events that we will. I received this baton on behalf of our state, and on behalf of all our athletes, who I am sure will acquit themselves appropriately and compete to become part of the contingent that will proudly wear the colors of Nigeria at the Commonwealth Games. Perhaps the Kenyan delegation should take a very strong note of warning that we have been working very hard in the medium and long distances. So if they intend to have some monopoly there, they should reckon with us.
And this is one of the greatest awards that you can have from the International Olympic Committee. It is the symbol of Olympism, Peret Gilberton, that set up the Olympics 150 years, sir. You are being commended. You are being accepted as one of the supporters and movers of sports and the ideals of the Olympics, sir.
Two Belgian surgeons have described in their research a previously unidentified ligament inside the human knee, which they say appears to play a role in the recovery of patients with anterior cruciate ligament tears. According to the knee specialist from the University of Leuven, their discovery could change the treatment of one of the most common injuries in sports, especially among football players. The ACL is the most significant of the 4 major ligaments which surround the knee joint. It's located directly in the center of the knee, crisscrossing between the upper and lower leg bones to provide stability.
The human ACL is located deep in the center of the knee, but the ligament we have described is running at the lateral side of the knee, somewhere over here. And while the ACL is controlling AP instability, meaning from front to back, this ligament is controlling rotation of the knee, so this movement. And what we notice is that in many ACL injured subjects, both ligaments seem to be disrupted. And so you can expect, if you only treat one of these injuries, that some laxity, some instability, especially this rotational laxity, will persist after an operation, for instance. When somebody tears his ACL and he undergoes surgery, we know that there are 10 to 20% of patients who continue to have some form of instability. That is unlogical because we fixed what was broken. So therefore, we were convinced there had to be another structure which was damaged also, but which remained unrepaired so far. All papers you could see a relatively high number of people who are not able to return to their pre-injury level of sports. Some papers state 75–80% of people who are able to return to, for instance, soccer. But if you look into detail, almost 50% of the cases, sometimes 40% of the cases, are not able to return at their level they used to play, especially the high level. They need to drop down a league, or they're not just as good enough. They feel a little bit uncomfortable or unstable.
Elsewhere, Russia's law enforcement agencies are on high alert in Sochi and have tightened access restrictions to the Black Sea resort as part of measures by President Vladimir Putin to ensure security at next month's Winter Olympics. Authorities are deploying tens of thousands of police and Interior Ministry troops to Sochi, where athletes will compete for more than 2 weeks in the most expensive Olympics from February the 7th. Access to Sochi was further restricted with the introduction of a new traffic scheme that gives priority to Olympic transport. Russia is aware that the success or failure of the Sochi Games will help shape his legacy, following 2 suicide bomb attacks in the southern city of Volgograd just a week ago, which killed at least 34 people. In football, there are indications that Everton are trying to beat Liverpool to sign Lazio's Nigeria international midfielder Ogenyi Onatsi. The 2 Merseyside clubs are set to battle it out to try and sign the 20-year-old who's been in fine form for his Italian club this season. Everton have been linked to the midfielder for some time, but the player is unlikely to move in the January transfer window. And finally, it's more misery for Manchester United and David Moyes as the Red Devils fell 2-1 today to Sunderland in the Capital One Cup. And that's it on Sports News. It's back to you, Joma.
Unveiling the new look of Guinness. Discover a colorful world of more.
Well, it's all about efforts to fight crime in the country. Well, this time we're moving on to Ondo State, where the police command there arrested and prosecuted about 250 suspects in the state in 2013 for various offences ranging from armed robbery and kidnapping to rape and human trafficking. At a media briefing held at the command headquarters in Akure, the Ondo State capital, the State Commissioner of Police, Patrick Dukumo, said that those arrested had been formally charged to court. He says he's delighted that the crime rate reduced drastically in the state in 2013 compared to 2012 and promised that the command will continue to work with other security operatives to fight crime.
105 armed robbery suspects were arrested and have been dealt with. We had a total of 26 kidnapped suspects in 2013. The total number of 409 suspects were 3. The number of vandals, that is pipeline and all the rest, 2. Total number of vehicles recovered, stolen and recovered, robbed and recovered were 30. And the greater number of them have been released to the owners on bond while the matters are in court. Number of motorcycles, 15. In the area of arms and ammunition, we had AK-47 rifles 6, AK-49 rifles 2, locally made pistols 18, not 16. Total number of cases of defilement, suspects arrested 2. The number of human trafficking cases, suspects in that direction is 8, and total number of child stealing suspects 12.
Well, we shift focus now to the foreign scene to update you on the situation in Syria. And that country began moving out its stockpile of chemical weapons today. The first consignment were put on a Danish ship to be taken to Italy, where it will be loaded onto a U.S. Navy ship and then shipped to international waters for destruction in specifically a created titanium tank, and that's on board. Now, the mission is being run jointly by the UN and the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, following an agreement brokered by the US and Russia after a chemical attack on the town of Ghouta in Damascus. Cynthia Are joins us now with other major foreign stories.
Indeed, there is some optimism concerning South Sudan. Information Minister Michelle McQuell says the government is committed to ending the conflict. About 1,000 people have been killed since violence erupted in South Sudan on December 15, 2013. Nearly 200,000 people have been displaced in the fighting, which has seen clashes between the Dinka and newer ethnic groups. Also today, North America's brutal cold snap is heading east, ushering in dangerous temperatures not seen in 2 decades. About half of the U.S. population has been placed under a wind chill warning or cold weather advisory. In Canada, the province of Ontario is facing temperatures of -40 degrees Celsius with wind chill. Thousands of flights have been grounded, and residents told their skin could freeze if they go outside. Then the U.S. says it is speeding up the supply of military equipment to Iraq to help its government fight militant groups in western Anbar province. The White House says additional surveillance drones would be delivered within weeks and more Hellfire missiles sent in the next few months. Finally, the family of a 16-year-old Indian girl who died after being gang raped and set on fire in the eastern city of Calcutta have met the president to seek his help in their fight for justice. A family member later told reporters the president had promised to give his help. The family also met the head of the National Commission for Women and asked for an inquiry by the federal police. The gruesome crime and the police's alleged mishandling of the case have led to days of protests. And those are the top stories on the foreign scene.
Thanks a lot, Cynthia. And the main news again. The president today gave the 17 successor companies until June to stabilize electricity supply across the country. The Power Ministry also hinted that it's reviewing the contract with Manitoba Hydro International on the distribution of electricity. Also, we found out that the trial of the Lagos Speaker for money laundering amounting to 339 million naira was stalled again due to the change of counsel. The federal government and NUPENG leadership have reached an agreement as the union puts aside plans for the impending strike. Now, that meeting was well attended by both parties, and although it was not open to the press, the union and others present, including the Labour Minister, say a lot of progress has been made. And the United Nations records progress as the first consignment of chemical weapons leaves Syria. Well, that's the news at 10 tonight. Many thanks for staying with us. I'm Ijoma Onyato. You have a great night.